What's up, family? So, what happens when honesty actually shows up on a political talk show? You get moments like this: Bill Maher, Douglas Murray, and even some uncomfortable truth bombs dropped on a sitting Democrat senator, all in one panel. We got a UK court ruling on a definition of a woman, trans issues, and parental rights. We got RFK Jr. versus the autism narrative, and environmental toxins getting more heat than politicians. So let's break all this down clearly, calmly, with a little bit of sanity, so to say. So, however, before I get into having a conversation with you guys, I want to actually show this clip with Bill Maher talking to Douglas Murray. So check it out.
There's a big ruling this week in England. The Supreme Court, their definition of woman is biological sex. To put it in shorthand, J.K. Rowling won.
Yes. J.K. Rowling won. Everyone who said this for years has won. All the, particularly women who've been defamed and lied about and bullied and chased and much more for years, they were right. And I just think, apart from being a statement of the obvious, isn't it amazing that the best legal minds in Britain spent years having to work out the first thing we knew as a species?
But just to be clear, we're not saying there's not such a thing as trans, right? We're not saying there's not such a thing as someone who is, quote unquote, born in the wrong body.
I don't think people get born in the wrong body now.
Oh, I do.
I do.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a default setting for humans.
Yeah.
Like, we should acknowledge that. It's not just every time there's a baby, ooh, who knows what the fuck it is. That's crazy. But there are...
Beyond me, yeah.
But there are variations.
There are variations.
Homosexuality.
That's right. It's a continuum.
And then, you know, but it's how we handle that.
That's
you know?
right.
I mean, I think we would agree that, you know, children, and this is where America is now an outlier country. We're the only country that went full, and I guess Trump is reversing it, but certainly under Biden, who went fully toward that. Like, we don't care what age, kids can self-diagnose themselves. I mean, that to me was going way too far on this. Again, nobody just comes back to the sensible center.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the sensible center is that, like, you respect people, you trust parents, you let parents figure out what to do with their kids, and you don't need a bunch of politicians in Washington making decisions about
That is not the Democratic position, at least here in California.
Well, that's my position.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Good. I think that's where the Democratic Party should. That is not the position that we've had here in California, which is like, don't tell the parents what the kids are doing at school. That's a whole, and that you really alienate voters.
Yeah.
Parents.
All right, so this week, the UK Supreme Court ruled that the legal definition of a woman is based on biological sex. In other words, the law now reflects what humans have always known: men and women are different, and biology matters, basically. So Douglas Murray put it plainly: it looks like Britain's top legal minds years to decide something every human civilization has understood since time began. That's not anti-trans, that's acknowledging reality. And there is such a thing, gender dysmorphia. There are people who feel imagined, or who feel misaligned, I should say, who feel misaligned in their own bodies. But that doesn't erase biology. And it shouldn't rewrite policy, however. So when we talk about this whole conversation, and you have the Democrat Senator Tina Smith, she tried to claim that Democrats do support parental rights and do support finding that sensible center, right? That sensible center. I want you guys to check out the next clip.
What I read in the paper is he did speak on it this week. And I did not agree with the point of view of the article I was reading, which was that he's completely crazy because he was saying it's not mostly genetic, it's mostly environmental toxins. I happen to believe that's probably a more likely answer. And they were saying, well, no, genetics. And of course, genetics is involved in everything health-wise. But to present the argument I saw framed in that way, that he's a kook because he thinks it's coming. I mean, environmental toxins is really the story of my lifetime. I'm glad I was born as old as I am at a time when everything wasn't completely polluted. I think that's why I'm still alive today. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I mean,
but Bill, the air is less polluted, the water is less polluted. As countries get richer, they pollute less. When they're industrializing, they pollute more. There might be individual environmental toxins, yes, but as a broad description of the status of OECD countries, we are polluting on net less.
It depends on where you live, first of all.
Yeah.
That's right.
Out here in California, I believe I'm breathing in the fire still. The fire burned a lot of this city, and a lot of this city had plastic in their home. And we were already getting, they say, a credit card's worth of plastic in our body on a weekly basis. So I don't know what you're talking about, like it's better than it used to be.
I'm talking about I can see the mountains from Long Beach, which I couldn't growing up. I mean, we pass rules, we do cleaner tech over time, and all rich countries do this. It is a process. It's a whole theory of the case called the Kuznets curve. It's a thing. It's worth reflecting on and respecting too.
Okay. Well, you may be sanguine about that. Maybe that's a libertarian in you. But this is what I worry about more than anything, is the plastic in my head.
Well, like I mentioned, Democratic Senator Tina Smith tried to claim about Democrats do support parental rights and do support finding that sensible center. It sounds nice, but Bill Maher shut it down immediately because that's not what's happening, especially not in places like California. Parents are kept in the dark about their kids' gender transition at school. Laws have been proposed or passed that label refuse. Let me put it like this. Laws have been proposed or passed that label refusing gender affirming care as abuse. That's how deep things have got. It took me a minute to even try to even retain or even understand, and let alone embrace, or actually I couldn't fathom the simple fact that it actually came to that reality that I even had to read that. And as you guys seen, it took me some difficulty in explaining it because it's to the point where it's getting so out of line, where kids are pure and there's laws being passed or proposed that refusing gender affirming care is abuse. That is wild. And some Democrats have even pushed to criminalize parents who do not comply. And let's be real, that's not the center. That's not love. That's state control. And if you're cutting parents out of the picture, don't pretend you're just being reasonable, right? And this is important because most conservatives don't deny gender dysmorphia exists. They don't deny people feel deeply conflicted about their identity, but they also believe truth matters, biology matters, encouraging delusion is not love, it's confusing. So helping someone doesn't mean you feed the distortion. It means you walk with them toward reality, not away from it. And it used to be called compassion, right? That's what that used to be called. Now it gets labeled hate. So Bill Maher switching gears and bringing up Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and rest of the interview. You guys can go check it out about the ongoing controversy. His belief that the environmental toxins, as you heard a little bit of, not just genetics, may play a major role in autism. And once again, Bill Maher and said what a lot of people have been thinking quietly. Why is it crazy to ask whether the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, and the chemicals in our homes are affecting our health, right? And this isn't conspiracy, it's just common sense. We know plastic particles are in our bloodstream. We know preservatives, pesticides, and pollutants are in our food. We know lifestyle factors affect everything from cancer to fertility. And yet, suggesting any of this can affect autism rates, suddenly you're a dangerous fringe candidate, right? And a guest on Bill Maher's panel tried to argue this. Actually, developed countries are polluting less, so we're doing great. But here's what that ignores. Less visible air pollutant doesn't mean fewer toxins. Cleaner cars doesn't mean cleaner diets, right? And no, seeing the mountains in Long Beach, like he had mentioned, doesn't mean your tap water isn't filled with microplastics. So the idea that we're cleaner now, so stop worrying, is a classic distraction because while the air might be cleaner, our bodies aren't. We are more medicated, more chemically exposed, more biologically confused. So when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says, "Look at the toxins, let's look at the toxins," maybe don't laugh them off. You know what I'm saying? And maybe ask questions. Because all these stories from trans debates to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s toxins and parental rights all boil down to one core issue. Are we allowed to think independently anymore? And can you question the gender orthodoxy without being labeled a bigot? Can you raise concerns about pharmaceuticals without being labeled anti-science? Can you defend parental rights without being called extreme? Or we have crossed into a cultural movement where common sense is offensive and blind compliance is virtue. Because if you're afraid to even ask questions, we're not in a democracy anymore. We're in an echo chamber. So here's where I land. The UK is finally calling a woman again. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is asking real questions and getting real backlash. Bill Maher and all the people holding the line for sanity. And average people are watching politicians pretend to be reasonable while pushing ideas that destroy truth, break up families, and dodge accountability. So if asking questions makes you dangerous, what does that say about the answers they're trying to hide? Think about it. So if you're still thinking for yourself, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Do you think that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is off base? Should parents be cut off of their child's biggest decisions? And when did biology become offensive? Keep asking questions, keep using your brain, and we'll be here for the real talk because at the end of the day, from my experience, when I try to just talk about, me being a single father and, having a nonverbal autistic child, and his diet is very crucial, especially because the gut, which is the gut is like the second brain. I mean, if you don't feel good, you don't look good. And if you don't look good, you don't feel good. But if your stomach hurt, how could my son, for example, be able to pay attention academically when he's in school? You won't. You don't feel good. You're not going to be able to really pay attention. So when you look good, you feel good, you thrive. When you look like crap and you feel like crap, you digress. I mean, you regress, to put it like that. So I digress on that, but I had someone tell me from personal experience that when I say I think it's a open conversation for effective dialogue to actually make food more healthier and not have pesticides and stuff. Well, they told me, "Oh, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's just crazy. He's denying science." Who never said he was denying science? He was just proposing the questions for science to stop ignoring that have been going on for years, and now it's actually becoming a autistic epidemic that hasn't yet to be questioned. But then you have new medicine being produced. But for example, things like cancer and stuff are just being bypassed that have been going on for years. And no one cares to continue to do ongoing research to even understand or resolve the issues, especially with our children, who is the next generation, let alone individuals who are dying for cancer, so to say, right? How can we ignore the constant diseases or sicknesses just because we haven't found a solution, science based wise, for so that we can have a medicine to resolve the issue and help people recover? If we just come to the conclusion that, oh, there's no cure for it, but no ongoing research about it, but then as soon as there's another sickness happen, it's quick to have a cure for that, which can be questionable because how can you have a cure so quick for a new upcoming disease that sporadically happen, but these old past diseases that don't have a cure, all of a sudden there's no cure for it. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Spread that peace, love, and positivity. Let the love supersede the hate, family. Until next time, peace as always.